Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mike Kollin at MikeKollin.com. Okay, so we're going to talk about something that we call in neuro-linguistic programming submodalities. And the reason why I'm doing it is because submodalities are a big... how do I explain this? Okay, submodalities have a really big effect on how anything affects you. Submodalities give the unconscious meaning to any word or event or experience that you have. For example, at one point in time, most Western people believed in Santa Claus. So when I was a little boy, I absolutely, beyond a shadow of a doubt, when I was like 1, 2, 3, 4, probably almost 5.5 years old, I believed in Santa Claus. That was a very, very real thing to me. So in my mind, if I could go back in time and be like, well, was Santa Claus real? Like, yeah, absolutely. Like, even right now, I just slightly look to the right. So unconsciously, about 2 feet from my, about 2.5 feet from my eye, just below eye level, I have an image of Santa Claus in a very bright, dark red outfit with white trim, white beard, etc. So it's like, to me, that's very real. So now, as an adult, I can remember when my brother Gary blew the whole Santa Claus illusion, because it was a wonderful illusion. It made me very happy that there was this thing called Santa that would bring me, free presents for Christmas. So when you shift the submodalities, you change the meaning, and that will change the effect. So essentially what I'm beginning to introduce you to is what submodalities are and how they affect us emotionally on an unconscious level that we're not even aware of, okay? So becoming aware of this can allow you to begin to take charge of your life on an emotional level. So now when I think of Santa Claus, it's over to the left, because now I actually don't believe Santa Claus is real, okay? So it's over to the left, the picture's smaller and it's farther away, it's a little bit higher. So when I see images up and to the left, smaller and dimmer, those are memories that are in the past that I no longer believe are true, okay? So by knowing these two things, I can shift someone's belief. Alright, so the music's going to go down a little bit here, the volume. So there's all kinds of submodalities. It could be auditory, it could be visual, it could be kinesthetic, meaning your feelings, okay? So you might have a strong feeling in your gut, right in the middle of your center of your belly, right? Or you could have a softer feeling a little bit deeper inside, but up and to the left, and it's smaller. So these are different types of submodalities. So you might see an image right in front of you, slightly to the right. Now I mean an unconscious image. So if I ask you, like, well, what does it look like? Point to it, and you're like, well, it's right here, it's just over there. And most people are like, man, I didn't realize I was doing that. So let me give you an idea of how submodalities affect us and why I brought this up. So if you remember, I told you a story a couple weeks ago, maybe a little bit further back, about these two soldiers that fought in, I think it was the Vietnam War, if I remember right. Might have been the Korean War. And what happened was they were both literally at the same spot, standing right next to each other in their foxhole. So what happened was, it was cold, and they had been told by their officers and sergeants, like, no matter what, don't take your shoes off, because if the enemy attacks you, well, you're kind of screwed. You take your boots off. And so they were freezing, and obviously, they would take them off and rub their toes and feet and squeeze to get the blood circulation going, because it hurt and it was cold. So sure enough, they're just outside of their foxhole, and they were taking their shoes off and doing this, and 2 of them got back, and their one buddy was still about 10 feet or 15 feet in front, and he didn't get back in time, and the enemy had thrown a hand grenade, and they both literally watched their battle buddy get blown up right in front of them. Now, here's the deal. This absolutely had a terrific impact on both of these young men's lives. I should say horrific, not terrific. So what they did, someone came along, I don't remember who it was that did this, but what they did was they went and followed, down the road about, I think it was 25 years later, they went and found these guys and they interviewed them. So they found one guy, and he was homeless. He was living off the streets. He was hooked on drugs. He was doing horrible. His life went to hell. So they asked him a question. They said, "What happened? Like you grew up, went to high school, you got good grades, and you joined the military, and this and this and that, and like, what happened?" And then he told the story of, "Hey, when I was in that foxhole and I saw my battle buddy get blown up right in front of me, I decided life wasn't worth living." That was the meaning that he associated to that event. Now, this is really important because a lot of us don't want to believe that we're the ones who are giving the meaning to things, when actually we are the ones who give. It doesn't matter what happens. You could have gave that an extremely positive meaning. And you're thinking, what are you, nuts? How could you give a positive meaning to that? Okay, I'll give you an example. So when I was young, now if you followed my channel for more than a year, you definitely have heard some of my horror stories from childhood. Now here's the thing. I was extremely successful because I misunderstood my mom. Like, my mom would beat me. And I mean, when we would get our grades, we would get $1 for I think it was $5 for an A, $4 for a B, $3 for a C, and I think it was nothing for a D. So I would get all A's, and my mom would never give me money, but she gave money to all my brothers and sisters, and I'm thinking, like I didn't get it. And then the next morning, she'd wake me up, pull me into this, the end. We had a Victorian house, so she took me downstairs. All the way at the end was the TV room. She'd close the French glass windows, and she would show me, if I won a trophy in boxing or sports, she'd show it to me, hide it behind my dad's trophies, and then just beat the living crap out of me, and then just walk out. She wouldn't say anything, and I was just like, what the hell? I thought she was saying, you're better than this. You can do better than this. Work harder. That's the meaning that I associated to that event, or those events, because this was a regular beating. Every time I got report cards and got all A's, I would get the crap beat out of me. And I thought she was saying, oh, you got an A-, you can get an A+. And no, she didn't give me any money for my grades, but my brother and sisters got money for their grades, blah, blah, blah. So here's the point. When I got older and it was time to play football, I was afraid, especially the first day of hitting. But I remember looking around at all the other guys, and I'm like, oh, these guys haven't experienced pain like I have. I mean, my brothers would beat me with baseball bats. I've been stabbed in the chest in my sleep multiple times. I mean, I can't tell you, I've been hit in the face with a baseball bat, hit in the head, hit in the chest. I mean, while I was asleep. I mean, I was brutalized. But here's the meaning I associated to all of this. I remember when it was like after double days, like this was the first day we got to put our helmets on and we were going to hit, right? And we're going to run full blast at each other, just smash into each other. I remember looking at these guys like, oh, these guys have no idea what pain is. I do. Like, none of these guys have been brutalized like I have. I'm going to kick ass. And I remember in my head saying, because my mom beat me so severely, I'm tougher than these guys. And in my head, that was my, what's the word, like overwhelming advantage that I had over these guys. Now, was that true? I don't really know, because I don't know what they went through, but I tell you what, I was for sure, beyond a shadow of a doubt, the toughest guy on the football team all 4 years. My senior year, I got the hardest hitter in the section. We had a huge section. I didn't even know there was such an award. In fact, my coaches they were surprised. Like all the coaches like around the league voted me, and also subsections voted me unanimously the hardest because I was taking people out. I mean, I was literally, it was like reckless abandon. My best friend Marlon gave me a nickname in ninth grade. He's the one who talked me into playing football. So after he saw me hit people during double days, and after that, he would like, crazy psycho mad dog, and he would like scream that out, and that became my nickname, crazy psycho mad dog. That is another submodality. Like, yeah, this is who I am. Now listen to the way listen to my tonality. Like, even just talking about this brings back that excitement. And this all comes from getting the living shit beat out of me by my mom and my brothers and sisters, etc. Now, eventually my younger sister, she was going to a therapist. I don't even remember why, but then she convinced me, oh, you should go see this therapist. Now, when I told her this, because she says, yeah, I heard you got beat a lot, and your mom was mean. And I'm like, no, she wasn't. And she goes, wait, so your sister wasn't telling me the truth? Like, oh, no, but you don't understand. My mom did it to help me. And she goes, what are you talking about? I go, it made me tough. I was the toughest guy in school. I was the toughest guy on the football team. Now, she looked at me like I was nuts. She goes, Michael, that's not love. That's abuse. Now here I am looking at this lady like she was just, I meant it respectfully, but in my head I'm kind of like, what a wimp. This is how powerful submodalities can be. Now there's a really funny thing that I realized many years later. It hit me one day in my probably mid to late 30s. I was like, I'll tell you what it is. So I remember I was in therapy, or it was actually energy healing, and like this memory came up, and I was like, wait a minute. So my mom, when she was punishing me, here's how it got into my head. One day I'd won a boxing match, and I brought home this trophy, and it was kind of a big deal because it was like a regional event or whatever, and I'm just freaking happy and proud, and showed it to everyone. Nobody wanted to see it, of course. Oh, whatever, dude. And so she wakes me up the next morning, marches me down there like at 7 o'clock in the morning when everyone's asleep. It was like on a Saturday or Sunday morning. And we go in the room, she closes the French glass windows, and she's showing me my trophy angrily, and then she puts it behind my dad's bigger trophies, okay? His trophies were like 3.5 feet tall, etc. Alright, I gotta kind of rewind a little bit, reverse a little bit in time. So, that one therapist eventually convinced me that my mom was this bad monster, and no, she wasn't doing this because she loved me, but because it was bad and wrong, and this is when I started to go into a downward spiral. I started becoming depressed because all of this abuse motivated the hell out of me. And I'm going to explain in a second when I come back to that part of the story where my mom puts the trophy behind my dad's trophy, okay? So my submodalities growing up it motivated me. They were really positive submodalities. Hey, she made me tougher and I can do this, and et cetera, et cetera. So then I'm seeing this therapist, 19, 20 years old, and now she's making me depressed, and everything's dark and dim, and, instead of bright and shiny and empowering, and now I'm going into depression and all this stuff because she changed the meaning to those events. Now, the first session or two, I just thought she was a wimp, but after a period of time, she convinced me, oh no, this is bad, this is wrong, this is darkness. So as a kid, it was bright and shiny, seeing a therapist, darkness, spiraling down, like severe depression, by the way, I mean like unbelievable. But then what happened is I continued on with energy healing and the newer like NLP and those kind of therapies that were coming out. And started healing different things, this, that, but then one day, so it was during an energy healing session, like this memory just came up and I was like, I started laughing so hard. Because I honestly thought when my mom would take my trophy, put it behind my dad's trophy, and then beat the crap out of me. I thought she was saying, you're better than this. You can get bigger trophies. You've got to work harder. But it didn't just apply to that. It applied to any time she beat me for doing something really good, okay? Like getting straight A's or all A's and 1B or whatever, right? Or winning an event in another sport. So it motivated the hell out of me, and I became like this little Navy SEAL, man. I was waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning to go running 7 miles, to do 200 push-ups, 200 sit-ups, 200 jumping jacks, and run in place and shadow box and, for 30 minutes and stretch for 30 minutes. I mean, I would work out an hour and a half before I would run that 7 miles. And then I did 2 morning paper routes on a bicycle or a skateboard at one point. And as fast as I could go, then I'd go to school, take copious notes, do studying and homework at lunch, and then go back to school and take notes, and then run back home, get my paper route thing, and then run back down to the paper route and do 2 more paper routes, and then study and do my homework, eat, and then run off to practice, and then I'd get home like at 10 or 10:30 at night, and I'd do my homework till about midnight, and then I'd wake up at about 4:30 in the morning all over again. I did this for years. That's how much my mom motivated me. I was on fire, man. I mean, I'm talking for like all the way through high school into college. Now, I had friends, this therapist, and I went to another one eventually because I just thought they were nutcases. I did. And like, Michael, this is not normal. This isn't healthy. Like, your mother doing those things, that's not a positive thing. I'm like, oh, no, it inspired me, motivated me, made me tough. So things changed in my 20s, and things started to get really dark. And I did realize, like, wow, my mom does not like me at all. And that really broke my heart. Like, when I started realizing, and I didn't really I was realizing it, but I didn't really want to see it. But it still was affecting me in a very depressing way. But then one day, and I don't remember if it was 34, 35, I don't know how, it might have been 32. I don't think it was 30, I think it was a little bit older. Energy healing is different because you don't talk, you just do the healing, and memories will come up over the next day or week or whatever. And one day, now this is the funny part, this is the Uno Reverso card. I suddenly realized, the reason why she would beat me after I'd win a trophy or an event or get good grades or did something good is because she was trying to send the message, stop succeeding, stop working hard, stop getting good grades, stop winning trophies, or I'm just going to keep beating you. I did not get that message. It was like victory, like it was like whole, because I did, I realized like in my 20s and into my early 30s, like, holy shit, she did all that stuff to hurt me. Like, she was not fucking happy with me, but I didn't really understand it until that moment when I was like, oh, she was pissed off because I was succeeding, not the other way around. She didn't want me to succeed more. So here she was trying to stop me and beat me down and make me emotionally just depressed and stop, but it was motivating the living shit out of me. Because I literally 180 degrees completely misunderstood the message. I thought it was like work harder. So that's, I just pushed and pushed. Man, I was achieving this goal, achieving that goal, just marching forward in life like nothing stopped me. And the funny thing is, at the age of 20 years old, I invited her over because I went through my first awakening. I'm like, hey, now here's how dumb and naive I was. Even though I was going through this awakening, I invited her, like, I need to talk to you. Now, I hadn't talked to my mom for like a while. I mean, we're talking a year or 2 or 3. And she came over for the first time. She had never invited her over to my apartment. And I said, hey, like, when I was a little kid and you beat me all those years, like, what was that all about? And she's like, what are you talking about? I was like, well, Jesus, like, was I a bad kid? I thought I was a good kid. So she goes, we did everything in our power to beat you down, like nothing would stop you. No matter how much we hurt you, you just, like, you were unstoppable. You just kept going. And she expressed her frustration, and you have no idea how angry that made. She was just like letting it loose. And I'm like, now this just confused me anymore. I was like, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. You're my mom. You're supposed to love me. Number one, I still didn't get it, and she knew it. And that just pissed her off even more. So about 6 years later, when I'm in this energy healing session, and I'm like, oh, I get it. So she wanted me to stop. And I burst out laughing, thinking, oh my God, it's like literally everything she did. And it was simply because I misunderstood the meaning or intention. So the meaning / submodality I gave it was that, oh, she wants me to work harder. Okay, that's how much I loved my mom. The power of the love for my mom, even though my mom didn't love me, it was so strong that because I made this mistake, it made me succeed overwhelmingly. And it drove her and all my siblings absolutely Captain Insano. I mean, they went ballistically nuts. And I just remember every time I'd win something, it's like they had this expression on their face like a nuclear bomb just went off, and their hair was like flat, up in the air, and like smoke was on. It was almost as if like their house blew up and smoke was on their face and dust and dirt. And I just remember like, why do they look so devastated? There's this cartoon where I can't think of the name right now, but it was almost like the same thing. Like these people were totally trying to screw this person over, and somehow this person just kept moving forward and going, bypassing all their traps and tricks, and just they couldn't do anything, and ended up. It's kind of like the Roadrunner, but that's really not it. That is one example, but it's kind of like the Roadrunner does all this stuff and ends up he ends up getting smashed over the head with the very thing he's trying to smash the Roadrunner over, and that's what the look was on their face like. Oh my God, what are we gonna do? So I remember the energy healer's face. She's like, what's so funny? Because man, I was laughing hysterically, like you have no idea. So I essentially explained it to her in between laughs, and she understood what I was saying, but the look was just kind of almost astonishment, like, okay, that's a little nuts. So it was a time in my life when I was very aware that they were purposely hurting me, and I was really going through a tough time for a long time, and it was just like, holy shit, I'm the one who was victorious here the whole entire damn time, and I didn't even realize it. I didn't even realize I was in this sick game. You know where the Bible says when someone's mean to you, just be loving back to them or kind back, and it says it's something like, I don't remember word for word, and it says it's like pouring hot coals on top of their head. That was me. They were doing everything to brutalize me, beat me, hurt me, talk behind my back, convince everyone I was this horrible person, and here I am just winning, and on top of it, I'm just loving them, and I'm being kind, and I'm just being nice to them. And even in that day when at 28 years old, my mom came over, she was just like, she just got even angry. And I'm like, what is she so mad about? Because here I was loving her, and not only I still didn't understand, even though she was telling me to my face, because in a million years, I couldn't believe that a mother would do something like this. So in that moment, I'm looking at her like, yeah, I don't really understand what you're saying. And that just infuriated her. So that energy healer was looking at me like, okay, like you're a little nuts. and I'm thinking, I'm not crazy. I'm awesome. And that's another submodality, your self-internal dialogue. See, your internal dialogue. See, a lot of people think, oh, it's just runs on. No, you get to take charge of it. You can say, I'm awesome inside. I'm cool. Like I'm funny, or I'm this, or that's awesome. So I've learned to create a bunch of little like kind of cartoon noises, or what my friend's daughter had this really cute expression and this really cute response when someone was trying to be mean to her, and I started to take it on, and holy shit, does it work. So I'll pay attention to other people and how they make themselves happy, the little noises they make, the little cartoon voices, and then I'll try it on and see if it works for myself, and I'll practice it, the facial expressions. And so over the years, I began creating a bunch of different little things that I do that make me really, really happy. I'll even watch like a comedian or a cartoon or a movie where a comedian does something really funny or makes a really weird face in it, and it works, and I'll try like, oh, that's cool, oh, I like that. So you get to go through life like this. You get to pick and choose from people you know, people you don't know. Could be a total stranger at the grocery store, does this funny noise, someone's mean to him, but then they do this thing and it makes them feel really good, like, oh, let me try that, oh, that works. So you don't have to take everything on, but pick and choose what you want. It's like going to 31 flavors, like an ice cream store. That was a submodality. It, meaning life, is like 31 flavors. It's an ice cream store. So what am I seeing? I'm seeing 31 different colors, 31 different flavors. I'm smelling it, I'm tasting, I'm looking at all the colors in 31 flavors, the pinks and the blues and the purples. And so it makes life very colorful. So they went and found the other guy in the war, where that was in the foxhole with his buddy. So they found the other guy, and with the foxhole where the buddy got blown up by a hand grenade, and they found him 25 years later. So essentially the same month, the same summer, whatever. And when he got out of the army, he went to school and got his degree in law, and he went and worked for a law firm, and he became very, very successful. And then he started his own law firm, and he became a multimillionaire. He became extremely successful, and then he ran for the Senate, and he became a senator, a United States senator. Oh, not to mention he got married, he had beautiful family, beautiful kids, healthy, like everything was just going awesome for this guy. So, they started to interview him, and they came down to the golden question. And so what happened? Like, how come you're so successful? Like, was there something that happened? Did someone teach you something, or give you a perspective? Like what? How come? Like, why do you believe you're so successful? And he goes, oh, I know exactly why I'm so successful. He immediately went in to say, and he said, when I was in the war, I was in the foxhole. And I got to see my battle buddy get blown up in front of me. It was the most horrifying thing, the most devastating thing in my life that ever happened. He said, I realized life is short. You never know when your time is up. He said, I decided that life was, I realized how precious life was in that moment. And I decided from that moment forward, I was going to live my life to the fullest. Every moment, every breath of every day. No matter what, I was going to do my best. So the first guy said, life isn't worth it, or life isn't worthwhile. And he said life was dark. This guy said, life is precious, like a beautiful, precious child. Now look at the difference in submodalities. Life isn't worth it. Like nothing's worth it, right? The first guy said life wasn't worthwhile. The other guy said life is precious. I'm going to live every moment of every life. So he looks at life at every moment is this precious moment. Now the other guy was looking through a filter of darkness. Life isn't worthwhile. So everything he looked at, and by the way, this filter, the submodality, it's not even real. It's just something that you decided and you put it up, and it's like a computer screen. You can make it dark, you can make it bright, you can make it colorful, you can make it red, yellow, blue, gray, black, whatever you want to do with it. Now this story, at the beginning when I first heard it, I just said, oh, it can't be that simple. Well, that was the submodality I just put on that lesson. Because the lesson is you give meaning to every experience and event that you encounter. So it was years later, about 28, 29, and this is what started pulling me out of the depression, out of the darkness. I remembered how happy my friend Marlon was before he died. And there was a moment in high school when he just, he said something kind of, Mike, are you happy? And I remember that. And I remember another moment when he said, Mike, all I do is try to make people happy. And Marlon was the happiest person that I ever knew. So here's what happened. When he died, I saw him. I saw his dead body. And that was one horrible submodality. It was, I'm not going to go in depth on that, because I think you can get the idea, because I don't want to go in depth on that, but it really, it was just like that, the battle buddy guy that went through life saying, I decided in that moment life wasn't worthwhile. It was just dark. It was this and that. And that's what it was like for me. Everything was just death. It was this horrible thing. And when I decided to try this technique of like, we give the meaning to everything, I thought, well, I remember thinking like, well, would Martin like me to be depressed for all these years? And I was like, no, he wouldn't. Martin would want me to be happy. So that began changing the meaning for me and the submodalities. So those two memories of him before school pretty much going, Mike, are you happy? I'm like, what are you talking about? And he's like, oh my God. And then the other one was when we were talking one day at a party at his house, because all I do is try to make, because people were kind of arguing and bickering. He goes, look at them. All they do is bitch and moan. And Martin had a real impact on my life. So there was two moments that really I remembered, and those are the memories that carry me through life now. So let's take a look at the cross. For some people, this is a really, really sad moment. It's not for me. It used to be. This is a victorious moment for me. When Jesus walked on the water, he literally was walking over hell. He's walking over Satan's domain. Now, I've talked about Leviathan and how the sea, it's kind of like the domain of Satan. It's not going to go into it right now, but when Jesus did that, it symbolized him walking over the domain of Satan's domain, which meant he had control over it. My point being is, the cross doesn't make me sad anymore. It is victorious. It is bright, shiny light. In fact, if I could, I'd brighten the colors in the background. I would make it shinier, funner, happier. So when people talk about, you're a sinner, you're going to hell, or, you're unworthy, you're just a dirty rag compared to God, I look at them and like, wow, you've never read the Bible. I'm like, what are you talking about? I've been going to Bible study for 25, 30 years since I was a little child. I'm like, yeah, you may have like your eye, because Pastor Rex taught this to me. He goes, yeah, their eyes like scrolled across the words, but they're not reading it. They're not getting into the meat of the Bible. Because if they did, you would have nothing but happiness and joy. So the one guy in the war, the battle buddy, he looked at everything in this very dark life, and the meaning associated was like, man, it's not worth it. Like, life's not worthwhile. The other guy was like, it was precious. So imagine going through life. So when he looked at that, it was just that moment around that body that got blown up. But if you go to the left or to the right or above it or past it, it's all bright light. And these are all separate, precious moments. He didn't connect that one moment to this is life, where the other guy did. Life isn't this. Whereas he said, life is precious. How did he say it? Every moment is precious. So now it's one moment to moment to moment instead of one big long moment, okay? So these are different submodalities, and this is why people look at life differently. So to reiterate, he looked at these moments as precious, and the way he said it was this, like a precious child, a newborn, beautiful child with this bright, shining lights. So every moment was an individual, precious moment where he could focus his energy on. Not one moment that extended into the rest of the life that was dark. So that memory is so far behind him and small and tiny, like it's disappeared, whereas every moment from that moment forward became a bright, shiny moment. So there's all this bright crystal light, white light, and moments of precious and this emotional feeling. It makes life worthwhile. It makes life wonderful. So when I'm doing coaching with you and energy healing and emotional healing, I will be working with your submodalities and helping you and showing you how to move them around very effectively. Hey, this is Mike Kollin at MikeKollin.com. Thank you guys very much for listening to this. I hope this video helped you. If you like this video, please click subscribe, click the like button, go ahead and make a comment, and if you like, go ahead and make a donation. There's a PayPal link right there in the description box. Alright guys, I'll see you in the next video. Bye.